إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل كما جاء في محكم التنزيل يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Brothers and sisters, we begin with praise and gratitude. That is what brought us here. We are blessed with life and everything in it, and so we seek to respond to a call that is coming from the depths of our souls and hearts, that comes from the voice of prophethood, which was given its voice by the Lord of all of the universe. So we seek His guidance, we seek His blessing and His favor, we call upon Him daily, and we ask His forgiveness when we come up short and we err in this worldly life of attractions from this worldly existence. You see, the idea of spirituality in this world in which we are declaring the oneness of God, and yet we're constantly called to the material possession and the worldly attachments that surround us. So right now, Allah has called all of you here to this place so that you would take in some of His guidance, so that you would be reminded, and that we could work collectively for His purpose. That our decision-making faculty, our mind, could join with our soul in rejecting the worldly attachments that we have and joining our heart as it beats, the blood as it flows in our body, and the purpose for which we are driven, which is to bring and preserve all that is good in life. So there's a famous verse of the Quran that talks about this. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استجيبوا لله وللرسول إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم واعلموا أن الله يحول بين المرء وقلبه وأنه إليه تحشرون. He calls out to us, telling us, O you who have believed, answer the call of Allah and His Messenger. They are calling you to that which will give you life. Know that Allah is the mediator between you and your heart, and to Him you will all return. You see, the scholars, they commented, that which will give you life. What is that? So you have these early commentators that said, well, this is the Quran, this is faith, this is the prophetic mission, this is the truth. This is defending yourself and fighting against those who are trying to kill you. Those are all things that would give you life. So our great commentators, they said, these are not conflicting commentaries. They are all coming from within one context. What it's saying is, answer your declaration of faith. When you say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you are affirming and ratifying that the truth of all existence, the value of human consciousness, can only come to fruition through a knowledge of the Quran and the example of the Prophet ﷺ, and a life that reflects a level of dedication and devotion to those things. That's what will give you life. That is what faith is. That is the Quran. That is what tells us how to defeat all of our enemies, internal and external and so forth. استجيبوا لربكم من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا مرد له من الله ما لكم من ملجأ يومئذ وما لكم من نكير. In another verse, he says, answer the call of your Lord before the day comes that Allah has decreed for each and every one of you. On that day, there will be no turning back. There will be no refuge. And there will be no denial of what you are facing. This verse is telling us, prepare for death because you don't know which day that will be. So the only day that you know you have is the one you're in right now. I was reading an article about an amazing person who achieved all kinds of great achievements. And he said, I came to this conclusion that I should live each day doing what I do as though I know it's my first day on the job. Because when it's your first day at a job that you just got hired, you are very careful about what you do and how you do it and making sure you do it right. But then you get complacent over time. And you start to just go with the flow and you lose your focus and your drive. You see, Ramadan has brought us back to that first day on the job, recognizing soul and self and relationship to the Creator. So when he said, Allah is the mediator between you and your heart, what he's saying is if you invite Him, otherwise you can separate from Him, not answer His call, and then your mind will be just the mind of a smart animal, living on this earth from this earth, and will be accountable to this earth and what it has to offer. Or you can answer His call, you can reject this secular, materialistic, selfish, individualistic world and become part of a whole, the collective, the servants of God. You can choose that, and then He will help you in your journey. He will comfort your heart. He will give you life in your heart. He will give you guidance because you're seeking it and wanting it and learning it. A companion gives us a beautiful example one time. You know, before slavery was eradicated, and there's, mashallah, all these beautiful texts that came in the Quran and the Sunnah about elevating slaves to the value of human beings on an equal footing with everyone else, and setting so many rules and regulations in terms of expiation for sins that you would let go and give freedom to your slave. So a man was angry with his slave and he hit him with the whip that he used for the camel. And this man heard an angry voice behind him. Hey you, know that Allah is much more capable in retribution against you than that slave. And he turned around and he saw the Prophet ﷺ rebuking him in strong terms. So the man says, when I heard the Prophet saying that, I immediately threw down the whip and I said, I will never hit a slave again, and I freed that slave on that moment. This is istijaba lillahi wa lirrasul. إِذَا دَعَاكُمْ لِمَا يُحْيِيكُمْ جَمِيعًا. This is responding and answering the call of Allah and His Messenger. When you hear it, you follow it. Your life changes immediately when you know of Quran and prophetic truth. You don't try to see when it's convenient, inshallah, next Hajj I will start to and X, Y, and Z. And when Ramadan comes, and when I get married, and when I get older, you have today, O servant of God. You have no other guaranteed to you. That is what we are called to do. So, Aisha, our beloved mother, radiallahu anha, she narrates that the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تقبل صلاة حائض إلا بخمار. That a prayer of a woman who has reached puberty could not be acceptable unless she's wearing a khimar. In Arabic, the word khimar, it means some sort of clothing that covers you from head down. That's the meaning of it, linguistically. And then she commented on the verse when she narrated this hadith, right? Which is, interestingly enough, if you read that hadith correctly, if a girl is 8, 9, 10 learning how to pray, she doesn't necessarily need to cover from her head, according to the Prophet's hadith here. And so she narrates that I remember when the ayah was revealed, وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. When the verse came down that first legislated the idea of a comprehensive modesty for the women of the Muslim community, in which it said, tell them to draw their cloaks or their veils over their bodies and down over their head. She said, when that verse was heard by all the women that were standing there, and all those, they used to have murut, they used to have some sort of clothing and cloth that maybe they would put stuff in it when they needed, and they immediately wrapped it around their head and drew it over their bodies in response to that. That's how they responded. When they were like, well, you know, in my family, we've never been covering head and all of that, and so it's not comfortable for us. That is not how they responded. They were ready to submit to the will of God. And if they were not, nobody would be sitting in this room today. If they were not, nobody would be here today. You would not be in this place that you are so blessed to be in, hearing the call of your Lord and His Messenger. There's a beautiful soul named Abu Talha. This hadith might confuse you. Abu Talha, one of the most, it is narrated, he was the wealthiest man of Medina. And as you may or may not know, alcohol was not completely prohibited for Muslims to drink until halfway through Medina, just so you know. And so Muslims used to drink alcohol because it was not prohibited. They were told there's some good and some bad, and the bad, they were being taught, tapered off. Don't come to prayer if you have been drinking and you don't know what's going on. Wait till you know what you're saying. So Abu Talha, here's the hadith, is narrated by Anas bin Malik, who was the servant of the Prophet ﷺ, who is known to be one of the most pious people. So he's narrating, we were all drinking wine in the house of Abu Talha. And I was serving wine to the people in the room. And then Bilal came to the door and knocked on the door, and he recited the ayah, فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُنْتَهُونَ. The ayah came down, are you ready to quit? Leave alcohol, it's the work of the devil. Stay away from it. فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ. Stay away from it. He said, at that moment, Abu Talha put his hand and told me, stop. He said, gather all of this. They put all of the wine back into the barrel. He said, take it outside and dump it. This is what it means to be among those who answer the call. When you know you are wrong, when you know you have done something wrong, you don't try to make any excuse for your personal desire or your comfort zone or the tradition of your family or your culture or your country where you come from. You follow the verse, you follow the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. It was a big turmoil in Medina when the Qibla changed. Everybody's praying towards Jerusalem. Why? Because they need to know that this man did not come out of a vacuum. He's completing a legacy of prophethood that goes back to Abraham. He is the confirmation of this prophetic Abrahamic covenant. He is the finality, the seal of this message. So they have been praying towards Jerusalem for years, few years, and some of them 16 years. And so then the ayah was revealed, now you will pray towards Mecca, which is obviously a beautiful prophecy, because at that point it has 360 idols in it and everybody's worshipping statues there. So obviously at some point soon, it will go back to monotheism, otherwise it would make no sense for Muslims to be facing this direction. But it was confusing. Imagine people are in the middle of the salah. They're praying the Salat al-Asr. And the man comes and recites them, and they know, maybe he's some liar. They know the difference between Quran and the language of poets or average people. They know it very well. They're very acclimated to it. It's something very peculiar and very amazingly inspiring. So when the ayah is recited to people in Salat al-Asr, because Jerusalem is that way, and then Mecca is that way, in the Salah, they turn around like that. Imam's behind them. This is what it means to respond to revelation. Now you might be asking yourself, why am I not like that? Why don't I see it like that? I will tell you why. You haven't necessarily witnessed the miracles with your eyes. You didn't drink the revelation from its source, from the prophetic truth. But I'm telling you one thing. You have access to all you need to get there. But the question is, will you seek it? Will everyone in this room stop praising a convert when they convert and be like, MashaAllah, your sins are washed away. MashaAllah, you're better than us, and join the club? It's every person's responsibility to make a conscious decision free of cultural and family inheritance of values. Purely for the sake of Allah and knowing Him and wanting to be close to Him and loving Him and knowing the Prophet ﷺ and wanting to be close to him and wanting to be his follower, wanting to be from his nation. And so that will cause one to study the Quran, to study its commentary, to read the biographies. Many scholars have done great researches and commented in beautiful, intricate ways on the beloved Prophet ﷺ, in who he was and what he was about, how he lived and how he taught, so that we can all know how to do all of that in the ideal manner and mode. But the question is, will you be complacent and just go along with it as a tradition of routine rules from family tradition? Or will you take an audacious step outside of the comfort zone that cultural society has given you and choose to be a servant of Allah, a follower of His Prophet ﷺ, and be like these people, ready to change what you have become comfortable with simply because Allah and His Messenger are calling me to that which gives me life? Brothers and sisters, the Quran is calling us as servants of God. Know that you were nothing. It was only by the decree of your loving, benevolent, caring Creator that now you exist. You have been blessed with countless favors over all of humanity. Will you show gratitude by responding to your Creator, Provider, and Sustainer? He calls you to serve Him. Our merciful, compassionate Provider calls us to that which gives us life. He has blessed us with this example preserved of our beloved Prophet ﷺ. We must use our mind, our body, our skills, our time, and our wealth in the service of the truth that brought us into existence. This is why we're here at the Muslim Community Center. We have no interest in building a building for people to come pray Jumu'ah and perhaps maybe attend a daily prayer. We have every intention of building a community of believers who know each other and love each other because of and as a result of their love for Allah and His Messenger. And they grow and they learn from each other and they build off of each other and they present something to society that is obvious and apparently superior to all other models of social interaction. لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. It's not a matter of any force, it's a matter of simply shining light. But it requires each and every one of us to answer the call and to take it as the most serious decision that we could possibly make. What is my connection to my Creator and how is that best executed? The question we're all brainwashed from birth to be concerned about is, what degree do I get? How much money will I make? And what kind of family will I build and preserve? These are all worldly things. If all of that doesn't come under and is not regulated by Allah and His Messenger, then we have completely misunderstood the call. And there are powers that be working on behalf of one who has called us to rebellion, and his main motto is لَأُزَيِّنَنَّ لَهُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. I will make them very attracted to what is in this earth. That's what he has sworn to God. Now it is our responsibility to reject that. لِلَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمُ الْحُسْنَى وَالَّذِينَ لَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَهُ لَوْ أَنَّ لَهُم مَّا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا وَمِثْلَهُ مَعَهُ لَافْتَدَوْا بِهِ. The Quran is very obvious. Those who have answered the call of their Lord will have all that is good and beautiful for eternity. As for those who do not answer the call of their Lord, if they had everything and all the wealth in the earth times two, they would ransom it and give it up for what's in the hereafter. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We are called to live for divine purpose, but we are also being called to live for a selfish purpose, for a worldly purpose. Those are two callings and they have two callers. The last chapter of the Quran, Surah An-Nas, warns us about the second caller. Basically telling us, if you are not dealing with and in an actual battle, conscious of his game plan, of your enemy, all that's in the Quran will be of no use to you. That's what the conclusion of the Quran is in that surah. So, God is calling us to be His servants and work for His cause. It's spiritual work. We are spiritually employed. But it's a choice, and it's a choice that will cause most people to have to make changes. And you know what they say in psychology? They say, after someone is 28 years old, the chances of them ever making a drastic change in their life for any reason is almost none. You get caught up into a system. And in the modern world that we live, the way people see, the way things are functioning in this world, it seems like everybody's being plugged in to a system that is making religion, God, spirituality, prophethood, all seem like something that is strange, irrational, not important, not cool, not a priority. It's a secular liberalism. Life is about what you want to do and how you want to do it. If religion makes you feel good, do it periodically when you want to. That is the path of the enemy that is calling us to failure. So tonight, we will talk about, as MCC, what kind of programming, what kind of growth, development. Learning Islam is a very core thing. And for anyone who thinks they know Islam, and alhamdulillah, I learned my religion, I'm here to tell you I love you and I respect you, and I mean no ill towards you, but you are mistaken. The greatest scholars that I sat with, people who have dedicated their whole life and they're in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, all communicated to me that we are students of knowledge until we die. All beneficial knowledge is something that needs to be gained and learned, and the real believer is the one that grows and changes in beneficial knowledge. The one that feels like, alhamdulillah, I know my stuff and I'm doing my religion, and that one is ignorant and fooled. They think, alhamdulillah, because they've limited Allah. لو أن ما في الأرض من شجرة أقلام والبحر يمده من بعده سبعة أبحر ما نفدت كلمات الله. Just to tell you how Allah responds to the one who says that. He said, if all of the trees on the earth were made pens, and all of the oceans was made ink, and you put the ink and you keep writing until it's gone, you have not exhausted the word of Allah. Meaning what's in the Quran and the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So tonight, as we had announced last week and last Jummah, and then we sent out in the Thursday of last week, that we will be having a community discussion so that everybody can understand how we as a community can come together to build ourselves, our families, and to preserve and promote Islam to the Charlotte community. 2, if you're getting an email and a text message, that means you have made a decision. Nobody forced you. To my knowledge, nobody is forcing people to take emails and texts. MashaAllah, out of the goodness of your heart, you made an inclination. But I'm telling you, if the attitude that you're having when you receive the email and the text is, whatever, I don't, it's not important. I don't even look at the emails. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how many people I've asked. You know what's going on? And they say, I have no idea. I say, you get the emails? Yeah. I said, why don't you know what's going on? Similarly, the text message. You have to be connected to Allah and His Messenger, and He made this place, He built this place through your faith, and He's calling you to respond to what this place is built for. And it is not just for people to pray. That is secularism. Unfortunately, it's very common in the whole Muslim world. Mosques are not this center of growth and development and movement and change and reform for society. That was Al-Masjid al-Nabawi. That was the prophetic mosque. So ask Allah to join our hearts in His light. Ya Allah, make it easy for us to respond to your call. Give us the motivation and the audacity to respond to your call. Make easy for us the path that is pleasing to you. Join us together seeking knowledge of you and your messenger. Emphasize in us all of the character and qualities of your beloved Prophet ﷺ. Help us to see the wisdom and the understanding that all of the great leaders before us understood. Help us to be successful as your servants, successful as those who promote your message, successful as raising a community that will shine your light. Forgive us for our sins. Forgive the believers of their shortcomings. Strengthen in us piety. Give us purity of heart, of mind, of resolve, of character, of knowledge, and help us to live the life that is pleasing to you and be resurrected in your presence and to enter into your bliss and to see you and to be close to you for eternity.